I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurrundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Good morning guys. It is 9 AM on Good Friday. I am about to jump into a reading sprint with Mel from Book Fiend named Mel and plenty of other YouTubers. So yeah, we're gonna get started with that. It is the Dark Romance Readathon weekend. I have not picked a TBR. I've literally just found all the Dark Romance books that are sitting on my Kindle. I've put them into a spinner wheel, which I will show you in a minute, the book that I'm going to choose. I'm just going to record it. Oh my god, tags. Anyway, that's how I'm going to pick books. Most of the books are under 300 pages. There's two that are over 400, so we are... Well, I don't know whether I'm crossing my fingers that I don't get them or crossing my fingers that I do, because I'm actually really interested in reading them, but they're just long. If I can get through more shorter books, then that would be great. Anyway, I'm going to put the spinner wheel on the screen so you'll see which book came up, and then I'll come back and chat to you. Okay, so the first book that the spinner wheel picked is Wicked Warden. This is by Lynn Burke, and it is an MC romance. So I don't know what it's about. I've got no idea. I have no idea where I acquired it from. So I'll probably start that during the reading sprints. So it's been a little while since I updated you. We ended up doing reading sprints for just over 3 hours, which was great because I got a lot of reading done. I actually started and finished Wicked Warden, which was the book by Lynn Burke. It was an MC romance. It was just okay. It's about Sean, who is the daughter of a member of a cartel whose family has been targeted by another cartel. And in the past, the leader of this other cartel had kidnapped and killed her mother, and so when her father hears wind that he's after them again, he puts Sean into hiding with the local motorcycle gang because his former best friend also happens to be a member of that. And Sean is really resentful of this because Drew, or Warden, was supposed to be the person who was protecting her and her mother years ago when her mother was killed, so she's very, very angry. And this is a massive age gap romance too. There's a lot of things that go on in the book. It is very violent, the trigger warnings for death of parents, very violently, for kidnapping and all sorts of things. There's also a lot of sex on page. I think potentially there are some consent issues in this book. There is some potential CNC stuff in here as well, but yeah, it was short and quick and easy to read, and it's the first Lynn Burke book that I've read, but there is another one on my TBR for the weekend that I may potentially get to, so we'll see how I feel about that. So I finished that during the first 2 sprints, and then I spun the spinner wheel again, so I'll insert a clip of that. And this time it pulled up Twisted Devil, and I've just forgotten who this one was by, but it was a really short novella. It's sort of a prequel novella to another series, which is all about, I think, protective services industry. I don't know. Anyway, the main character is an FBI agent, and he's investigating a series of kidnappings of young women, and he goes into a cafe one morning and he meets the barista, and her name is Chloe, and he really likes her. As it turns out, Chloe is the next one who is kidnapped. It's not related to the fact that she met him, it's just she's the next one chosen. And so it's about how she survives that kidnapping, the attempted sexual assault in that, and how these two grow closer. I really like this one. It was short and sweet, and Jason was very respectful of Chloe and everything that she had been through, and there's a year between the time she escapes and everything being finalized with you know, her captor going to prison and things like that before she reconnects with Jason and their relationship begins. So I really enjoyed that one. I'd be very interested in checking out some of the other books in the series because it sounds really interesting. And then because that one didn't take me very long to read at all, I also started my 3rd book. So insert spinner wheel again. And this time it picked Corrado, which I've also not written down the author's name, but I'll put a picture of it on the screen. This one is a mafia romance, and it is an MMF, eventually, romance. And I was reading the summary, and this one looks to be a duet, so I probably won't get to the 2nd book this weekend, but I'm already really loving the 1st book. So you have Corrado, who is one of the sons of a mafia leader, and apparently there are 4 sons, and Corrado is one of a set of twins. And at the very start of the book, he and his twin brother Christopher are touring a facility with their father, and this happens to be a facility where they train assassins. So not only do we have mafia, we also have assassins. Now I'm hit and miss with mafia stories, but I'm already intrigued by this and Corrado and his first love interest, which is Les or Alessio. So I'm very eager to pick this one up, but this is one of the 400-page long ones. So I'm hoping that I can knock it out today because that'll take a huge chunk out of my potential reading list for the rest of the weekend. But now I'm gonna go find lunch. I'm actually gonna go downstairs and see if the fish and chip place is open because it's Good Friday and I haven't had anything significant to eat today. So if I go now, then I'll beat the dinner fish and chip rush. Fingers crossed, if it's open. Okay, so I can't remember where I last left off updating you guys today, but I am, well, I've eaten dinner now, I've showered and all of that jazz. It's 7:30 and I'm 50% basically of the way through Corrado. It seems like this story is broken into two parts. So the first part is how Corrado and Alessio meet at this, you know, assassin training school, because we love assassin training schools. Even if it's really depressing about how they break them, which we get in, you know, some detail in this particular book. So along the way, we find out that Corrado, who turns 18 partway through the book, is one of the toughest sort of students that they've had to break because he is so unwilling to give in and to give up his pride and his sense of self. And so they start going about it in a different way. And they start using Alessio, who he's formed a connection with and an attraction with, and the two start up a relationship. So they're both 18. Where part one leaves off is, you know, where they've really just stopped antagonizing each other and realized that they have to work together to make this relationship work. And now I'm about to start part two, which is where we bring in the female lead character. So I'm interested to see where this goes. So I really enjoyed that. Now it is supposed to eventually become, I think, a throuple situation, but it's not there at the end of this first book. So Corrado is the first book. It has a companion book, Alessio, which deals with sort of the fallout of everything that happened in the last couple of chapters of this book. And I so desperately want to read it now. I may have purchased the rest of the books in this series, the Wurrundjeri Legacy, because there's 2 volumes and 6 books. I'm not going to start the next one now because I want to read something else off the TBR. So in a minute I'll do the spinner wheel again. But you better believe that I'm going to be going down this rabbit hole in the next couple of weeks because that was so good and intense and just words. So I really like when you have very intense dynamics between characters. And the interesting thing is you have 2 trained assassins, one who comes from a mafia type family, and then you add in this third element of this young woman who's only 21, who's being forced to marry someone else, and the guy that she's supposed to be marrying organizes for her to be taken away on her wedding day because he doesn't want to marry her either. And her brothers are absolute, we don't like them. You know, Corrado is sent to take her away from her wedding and then keep her away. And both Corrado and Alessio are bisexual, and they have this rule, like they are everything to each other, and they don't admit that to each other. But they have this rule. They're allowed to sleep with women. They're not allowed to sleep with men. That's their hard and fast rule. But they're allowed to sleep with women. But they just have to be open and honest about it. And Corrado starts to feel feelings for Ginevra, but doesn't tell Alessio, and that's what sort of sets everything off in the last, 15-20% of the book. I so badly want to know what happens. Like, I can't even tell you how badly I want to know what happens next. This is me showing some restraint by not diving into the second book right this second, but that's okay. So spin a wheel first. We're gonna read something else just because I won't be able to go to bed with that being the last thing I read, or even the second book, because I think it's gonna, yeah. Okay, spin a wheel time. And that makes me happy because it's Bleeding Edge. That is an Evie Mitchell book. To be honest, that is probably the best possible thing that I need right now to calm me the hell down. Okay, I need to stand corrected. The book that I'm actually reading is Rough Edge by Evie Mitchell, not Bleeding Edge, because I put down the wrong book. Bleeding Edge is the second book. I need to read the first one before I pick up the second one. So that's just totally on me because I did not read things properly. Okay, so this book is very readable. I'm about 50% of the way through, and it is about Jetta, who is the oldest daughter of 2 rock stars, and they were both killed in an accident, and she was left to raise her younger sister, who has also become a pop princess. And what Jetta finds out at the very start of the book, it's the 10-year anniversary of her parents' death, and they were very famous and everyone's talking about it, but she is basically abducted and taken to this guy who said he was the source of her father's drug habit and now her sister's drug habit, and her family owes him $1 million, which she doesn't have. She's a composer, she writes songs, but she's not a performer herself. And she's given a tip to reconnect with her high school sweetheart Pax, who runs a security firm, and they haven't spoken in years. He was his former military, he was in the SAS, and he was medically discharged when he was injured. They reconnect and he recognizes the name of the guy who is trying to reclaim the money, and he offers to take care of it, and they sort of rekindle their relationship, or start to. There is a scene in here, like, this is more romantic suspense than dark romance, but you know, at this point I don't particularly care because it's extremely readable. There's this one scene that I shouldn't love as much as I do, and it takes place when Pax gets a call very early in the morning and has to just leave at like 3 a.m. and Jetta is dealing, you know, with the anniversary of her parents, of being abducted, of the financial stress of having to owe all this money, of getting her sister into rehab and all of it, and rekindling this relationship. And he leaves and she gets so mad she trashes his place. And like, you know, it's a bit dramatic, but also she's been through a lot and she's handled everything with grace. And he has this study that has this steel door on it. I mean, he runs a security firm, so, you know, fair enough. And she takes a blowtorch to it. So it's like, you know what? I get it. I get it. This is how she needs to process. Not necessarily a healthy way, but I totally get it. Anyway, I'm really interested in all the side characters as well, because there are some characters that Jetta meets as she's getting to, or, you know, settling in and getting to Reno Pax, and I'm very eager to find out more about their stories, because one of the characters, Emmy, got shot protecting Jetta, and I think her book is the next one. Good morning. I just finished filming a video. My room is a mess. But yes, Tiffany tagged me in a video last night and I really wanted to film it, so I'm going to swap out a couple of things and have it go up a little bit sooner, just because I was really excited to do it. So I figured I'd do that before I start getting ready to go to my parents for the Easter weekend. So yes, now I have to tackle my to-do list because I've finished filming the video. I can edit that at their place tonight if I need to, and I want to get some reading done before I leave. Oh my gosh, it's really sunny today. Sorry, glare. Yes, so I have got the laundry on. I have cleared my clothes horse so I can literally throw the wet clothes onto the clothes horse and put them outside, because it's actually quite warm today and they might actually dry relatively quickly, which is nice. And I've started getting things ready for going away to mum and dad's, but I realized I forgot to update you on Rough Edge, which I finished last night, which is the Evie Mitchell book, which was more, again, romantic suspense, but these two characters have a really rough relationship, because you have Paxton, who's dealing with PTSD but doesn't really realize that that's what it is. You have Jetta, who is having to deal with the 10-year anniversary of her parents' death and her sister being in rehab and someone extorting her for money. And they're both at really rough points in their life and trying to make this relationship work. So the second half of this book is really on again, off again. It is not the most healthy of relationships, but they both want to make it work. And they're trying to find a way for that to happen. Was it the most unpredictable book? Not really, but did I enjoy it? Yes, because I enjoy Evie Mitchell and her writing style is fairly easy. I'm very, very enthusiastic to read Bleeding Edge, which is the one that I thought I was supposed to be reading. I thought that was book one, but that one follows Emmy, who is a character we meet in this book, and Lucian, who is another member of Paxton's team, and I really, really want to read their book. So that is also on my after this readathon TBR. But I did do the spinner wheel again last night, so I know what the next book is going to be, so I'll insert a clip here. So I'm going to be reading Dark Mysteries by Jessica Gaziella, which is one of about 6 Jessica Gaziella books on this spinner wheel, and I'm surprised I haven't gotten one of those already. So I'm going to try and read a little bit of that now, and then cook some lunch and do the last lot of chores and pack everything up and all that sort of stuff before I go to my parents later today. So now part of, you know, my Easter packing is making sure I bring along some rapid tests, because one, work now pays me in money and rapid tests because I'm required to test twice a week when I'm working. But because I've been on holidays and, you know, not actively seeing people and actively avoiding everyone, I haven't been doing any rapid tests, so I told my parents that I would bring some extra ones along, because if we're going to host Easter, we're going to be responsible Easter hosts. And that means making sure people don't come over if we're sick. It might be Easter weekend, but next weekend after Easter, it's Anzac weekend. So that means Anzac biscuits. I just finished Dark Mysteries. I really, really liked this one. So this is about a private investigator, Xander, who in the middle of the night has this tiny woman who has been beaten within an inch of her life banging on his door. And he lets her in and he gets her story, and we know from the start that she's not telling the whole truth, and he knows from the start that there's probably some things that she's not told him. In the end, she ends up staying with him because she has nowhere else to go, and she's got a stalker who is violent with her, and he takes on this case. And as he is investigating, he begins to realize that no, there's actually some pretty sketchy things happening, and that she can't have given him everything, and he starts to piece little clues together, but he doesn't quite get the full story. Meanwhile, she makes a few other allies in the town who realize who she is and what she's running from. Very romantic suspensey, but also very dark romance. Content warnings in here though for very heavy torture and domestic abuse, abduction. There is mention of an off-page historical loss of a child in early pregnancy as a result of being beaten by a partner. So that's something to be aware of, but gosh, it was good. And Ellie is just such a strong character who puts up with so much and learns how to deal with it, who learns how to go on the run, how to protect herself, and is, you know, desperate to stop other people getting hurt because of her. Really enjoyed this one. As much as you can enjoy a dark romance where really bad things happen to good people. So if you guys couldn't tell, I'm at my mum's house with all of her Easter decorations. It's kind of like the Easter version of the Christmas decorations. I love it. She always does this and it's fantastic. Okay, so I have to be really quiet because everyone else is in bed. I'm clearly not at home. I'm at my parents' place, and you'll have seen some clips of, you know, my mother's Easter decorations. But anyway, tonight I finished reading The Rise of Farron by Jessica Gaziella, which was good. I didn't enjoy it as much as Dark Mysteries. And it's funny because Farron is a character that I've read a lot about in other books by Jessica Gaziella because she's part of the Never Sink Bank world. She's the daughter of the original head of the henchman MC, and we knew that something had happened to her. And I still haven't read that particular story yet, but it does involve human trafficking and also sexual assault, and she eventually leaves after she's rescued from a situation where she's taken, and she runs off for 9 years and trains to be able to take on and kill people who are in the business of human trafficking. And then 9 years later she comes back to Never Sink Bank and she's reunited with her childhood crush Vance, who is the brother of her best friend. The rest of her family is out of town, so they keep her return a secret until her parents are back. Yeah, it's about her finding her place again, especially since she's so different from when she first left. And yeah, it was interesting. And I mean, one day I'll finish reading the original Henchman books. I honestly, I keep jumping around these series, but I don't think it matters so much because you just pick up bits and pieces here and there and you can sort of jump in wherever you like. Good morning, happy Easter, it's Sunday. We are getting ready for having all of the guests over at Mum and Dad's place. So we've all tested negative for said virus and ready to go. It's rather stressful in the kitchen, so I'm hiding in my room, or my old room. Have a look, these are my Easter earrings. And I kind of love them. But yes, I've been doing all the odd jobs this morning and have to go back and do some more. So reading will probably not happen till tonight, and I will be reading Play Along by Teal Swan. So I will hopefully have some footage of all the food and everything today, and then I'll catch up with you at some point. Home, sweet home. I'm very tired and very full. I think I ate my body weight in food, but I need to have a shower and possibly a Panadol, and then I'll chat with you guys about the rest of Sunday. It's a few hours later now, and I am 62% of the way through Play Along by Teal Swan, which is a totally bizarre and crazy story about a woman who, at the very start of the book, it opens with her catching her boyfriend cheating on her with her roommate and best friend, and she confronts them and gets really mad and goes out the door and happens to be witness to a murder, and then is abducted, thrown into the boot of a car, and then she fights her way out and takes down 4 guys, and then they knock her out. Then she wakes up on a container ship that is owned by a drug lord or a mafia drug person. Anyway, that's just the first part of the book. And at 50% of the way through the book, she has been taken under the wing of Mac, or Stace. His name is, he's got an assumed identity. He's the only one keeping her safe. He basically claimed her and kept her locked in his room. So, you know, forced proximity and only one bed and all of that jazz. Rosh, who is the heroine, I don't even know how to describe her, because everything that happens is completely insane, because you think that she is someone who is completely innocent and wouldn't know how to deal with the situation, except for the fact that she's totally a fiery badass. But she's still beating up guys. She steals diamonds from one of the containers. She steals guns from one of the containers, and then she kills one of the presumed bad guys. And I'm only 60% of the way through this book. So now Rosh and Stace are on the run through Colombia from the bad guys. Pretty much this hit every other box on the bingo board that I hadn't hit yet. The one that I hadn't hit was public sex, and this has had at least 2 scenes so far. I don't know what I'm reading, but it's highly enjoyable and very fast paced, because this book is over 400 pages long and I'm going to finish it in a couple of hours. So I don't know what I'm reading. I'm not entirely certain what I just read, but it was very entertaining. And I think that's all I can say about Play Along by Teal Swan. It's very entertaining. The one thing I will say though is that the formatting of the ebook is a bit strange, because where you would expect there to be a paragraph or a page break because you jump time, there's not. And I don't know if this is a TL Swan thing, because the only other books I've read have been the Miles High or the Miles family books. And yeah, the formatting on this one was a bit strange, because instead of like when there's been a big time jump, like half a day or something like that, there's nothing to indicate that. It just moves on to maybe the next conversation. So it's literally the next line. So that was threw me a couple of times, but you know, entertaining and fast paced. All right, I don't know what I'm going to read next, but it'll probably be tomorrow. Good morning, friends. Happy Monday. I've had a very, very, very slow start to the morning, mostly because we have not had proper rain like this for ages. It's been raining since last night. So yes, it was very dark when I woke up this morning and kind of cozy to stay in bed. So that's what I did. But I am going out to the movies today with friends and to brunch. So I have to get myself out of bed. Hi guys, happy Monday evening now. It's nearly 5 o'clock. I just got home and had a shower after being out all day. So I went out for brunch. And I just had my normal eggs and bacon on toast, because I'm basic like that. And then we went and saw The Lost City, which I knew a little bit about, but honestly hadn't been paying much attention to. But my God, is that movie funny. If you are a romance reader and you haven't been to see it, please do, because you will cackle at all of the little nods to romance books. Because if you're not familiar, it's about a romance writer who has a really popular series, but she's, you know, run out of ideas, and she ends up being kidnapped because her main character solves sort of archaeological mysteries, and she gets caught up in this thing, and her cover model comes to save her. It's great. Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum should only do comedy, and so should Brad Pitt, who I had no idea was in the film, and Daniel Radcliffe should just continue to play roles that he feels like it, because he was great as the villain in it as well. So I had a ball, and everyone I went with, we were just laughing really loudly constantly through the film, and it was great. So yeah, but then on my way home I ended up starting The Woman in the Trunk by Jessica Gaziella. So I have 2 books in this series. This is the first book. I read the second one already, and then I have the third one, which I got as an ARC. So I'm going to try and finish those off tonight. And I also had my new round of post-it notes or sticky notes turn up. So basically, after finishing the Green Creek series, I've got like 2 packets left. So I ordered another set of, I think it's 10, 12, might be 10. So there are 5 of the square ones and 5 of the flaggy ones, but it doesn't really matter. I don't mind. I just need the colors. They will get put to good use, because yesterday, I think I forgot to show you this, my copies of Headcase and Madman by Only James turned up, and I have the other 3 books also on order. And when they come in, I'm probably next month going to do a reread and start tabbing those up as well. I could wait for Lunatic, but let's be real, I probably don't have the self-control for that. So I'm going to read for a little bit. I will probably have dinner a little bit later, just because I've been snacking and eating at weird intervals today. So I'm not quite hungry yet. I just need to wait for probably about an hour. I'm going to go and read a little bit more of The Woman in the Trunk, which is about Lorenzo, who is an underboss for one of New York's mob families or mafia families, and he ends up taking on a job to kidnap the daughter of someone who owes them money, and he hates kidnapping jobs, and it's also against his code to have anything to do with women. And this particular woman is quite small in height, and she doesn't look old, so he thinks that she is a kid as well, and so he thinks that she's a teenager. And again, that's like, kids are not something that he likes to get involved in, and yet, you know, he's kind of already started this job, so he has to follow it through. And Gianna is the heroine, and she's very kick-ass. She doesn't take it lying down, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I'm probably only about 10% of the way into the book, so I'm eager to continue their story. Bravo, Jessica Gaziella. You get bonus points for mentioning my favourite film, Arrival, being one of the heroine's favourite films, because it is one of my all-time favourite films. So I just finished The Woman in the Trunk. I really liked this one. It's the first book in the Costa family series, which I don't think I said before, but it is one that I have read the middle book of the 3 so far, so I'm, you know, finally filling in backstory, and this is how Lorenzo becomes the head of the Costa family. I will say this one has content warnings for rape that happened years earlier and off page, but it is rape of a minor, and there's a lot of blood and gore and murder and chopping up of bodies because of mafia reasons. Be aware of that going into it. But I'm going to jump straight into The Woman with the Scar, which is going to be my last book for this readathon. It's also by Jessica Gaziella. It's book 3 in this same series, and it's the one that I need to do a review of. So I'm catching up slowly. And this one is about Brio, who is sort of the loose cannon killer, possibly, of the series. And I really liked him in the book that I just read because he's scary as all get out, but he's very clever in the way that he manipulates situations. So I'm looking forward to reading his story. So I'm still eating my way through leftovers from Easter, but I just have to say, this is my favorite dessert ever. It is a cheesecake, and my aunt and my mum both make it. I don't, because it requires far too much patience and time than I'm willing to put into a dessert. So you better believe I take extras after family events. I mean, if this quote doesn't sum up the entirety of this book, I really don't know what does. Alright, so I finished my last book for this readathon, and that was The Woman with the Scar. I think I liked this one more than The Woman in the Trunk. Not that which is, you know, much of a muchness because I enjoyed both of them. But this one follows Brio, and it's very much kind of a morality chain because he is an enforcer for the mafia. He is very willing to go in and do the torturing and the killing and all of that. Like he has no issue with it. He's sent to surveil some people who owe the family money, and he ends up spotting the wife of one of the men who is being treated horribly. The husband is abusive and just horrible, and he makes it his mission to find out what her story is and to stop her from being hurt, because that's one big thing that they've made clear in the whole series, is that the Costa family are very against hurting women. You know, things progress and he ends up killing the husband to get her out of the situation, which only makes things worse because he has 2 brothers who are trying to lock her out of everything that she is owed, and you know, things get very violent, very gory. So this is not the book for you if that is not something that you can handle. There's something really endearing about Brio because the whole way through the series he has this habit of, you know, he's very violently, fiercely protective of things he loves. He also has absolutely no self-control when rescuing animals, and he, like, the way that he shows affection to other people is by gifting them pets. And yeah, the whole last little section about this book, so a lot of Jessica Gaziella's books have these prologues that show the characters in various stages of their lives after the HEA, which I love because, you know, that just gives you a sense of closure and you get to see some of the other characters from the series. But he's just constantly rescuing animals and it's kind of endearing. I enjoyed this one. So that is it for this readathon. I actually don't know how many books I read. Hang on, let me go work this out. Okay, so this was my TBR plus 3 books, which I totally DNF'd and just took off the TBR. So I read a total of 9 books, and in terms of all the prompts, this is sort of how everything fell. I just, you know, put the covers on most of the things that they hit. Some of these hit more, like tons of these all at once. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how this readathon turned out. I do have to finish the next 2 Jessica Gaziella books, and I also am going to go in and keep reading the follow-up to Corrado so that I get the wrap-up of that story. So stay tuned, that will probably come in the next week. Thank you very much to the hosts of this readathon. I actually think this worked out really well, just basically picking a stack of books, having them there, mostly using the spinner wheel. I wasn't trying to hit any of the prompts, I just sort of covered them up as I hit them, and for me that was a lot less pressure, and also it just gave me an excuse to binge read a whole lot of books. So yes, I don't know how many dark romances and romantic suspense books I'll be able to read in the next little while. I think I need a break, but this was definitely fun for 4 days. That's the end of this readathon. I will leave links to all the books down below and all of that, but yeah. Thanks very much for watching. If you did participate in the readathon, I would love to know your favourite reads from the readathon. Let me know so I can add more things to my TBR for future readathons, because we know that this is something that I'll come back to at some point. I'm really glad that I was able to participate. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.